Okay, I'm watching the audio thing and it's actually working. If you're watching this and confused, I just live streamed like 11 minutes of stuff and I found out that my audio wasn't turned on. Also, you might notice a little thing up in the corner here that shows up every now and then. That's because I just barely got some lights, and if I cover things up, I cover up my lights, then you'll see this shadow and it's not great. So I am working on that. I just barely got these lights and I'm gonna like mount them on the ceiling or something. I don't know. My green screen is also mounted on the ceiling, which is kind of wild. It's cool. Yeah, so working on making this a lot easier. I have a pulley thing. I can pull this screen up so it's out of the way. It's really nice, but it takes a lot of work to get this in a good spot. So, and now I just like messed up everything. Okay, so that thing's gonna be up there during the duration of this video. Unless, let me just do something really quick. We'll just do. Now I might start to disappear a little bit, maybe. Sort of. Okay, anyway, I got a bit of work to do there. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about today was I am working on updating my website so that it uses Gatsby and is not this, which is informative, but not very great. It's also still not very great, but one of the things that I'm doing is I'm going to move my blog from Medium to my website. So instead of blog.kenziedots.com, it'll be kenziedots.com/blog. And people tell me that's better for SEO. And in addition to that, I won't be using Medium anymore. So I would never have used Medium if I couldn't control the domain. And because I've always been able to control the domain, when I make the change, I can have redirects and all of the links will still work, and that's nice. But I want to have more control over my platform, and so that's why I'm building my own. I always wanted to build my own, but I just didn't have the time. Now I'm trying to find some time to do this. Anyway, so in the process, one thing that I really like about Medium is I have these Twitter embeds down here where I just paste in the tweet, I hit enter, and Medium will load up the tweet for me. It's really nice. I like that a lot. But it means that if I were to go to do this on my blog in Markdown, oh, spoiler alert, then it would, I wouldn't be able to do that. Like the Markdown would just render that Markdown stuff. So if I did, yeah, it would just render that. Like it doesn't embed the tweet, right? So I have to go to publish.twitter.com and then I paste in a tweet. There we go. Here's a tweet. And then I can copy this code and then I can paste that code in my Markdown file and then I'll get the embed. Of course, I'll remove this script tag because I'm handling that script tag stuff in my Gatsby browser thing where it like does all this Twitter load the platform widgets doodad stuff. So I get rid of that. But yeah, I don't want to have to do that. That would not be fun to do. And so computers are pretty good at doing this stuff. And so I wanted to make it so I can just paste the URL here and then it would automatically get all that HTML for me. Luckily, publish.twitter.com has this embed thing, and I can't remember what the query params are. This is why we write computers to do stuff. But so you can hit it and it's like a JSON API. It'll get you back the HTML that you need, and then I can stick that in here. So because we're using Remark, which is basically like Babel for Markdown, we can make this work really nicely and automatically. And so that's what I did. So here in my Gatsby config, I am using Gatsby MDX, and it has this Gatsby Remark plugins thing where I can specify plugins. And one of those is my Remark embedder. So I am doing this for both YouTube and Twitter, and I might do it for other things in the future to just automatically embed stuff, which I think would be cool. Maybe like Code Sandbox probably is a good candidate for this. But yeah, so the way that this works is, luckily for us, Markdown or Remark supports asynchronous plugins. Babel does not. I think there are performance implications, which is why Babel doesn't. But so we just make this async plugin, and then we create this transforms array, and we use this visit util from Unist, which is part of the Remark ecosystem, which basically says, hey, take that AST that you created from the markdown, and anytime you run into a node that is text, like this, for example, then I want you to call my callback function so I can manipulate that node if I want to. And so here we're going to pull the value off of the node, and then for each of our transformers, we're going to say, hey, transformer, should you transform this value? And if you should, then I'm going to add a transformation, which is an async callback function that will basically just get the transformed value, which is going to be HTML, for that text value. And then we'll set the node type to HTML and then the value to HTML. And so we queue up, or we create this array of all these possible transforms, and then we kick them all off. We map all those transformation functions to promises just by calling them. They return a promise. And once they're all done, we don't actually care about the return value because we're actually manipulating the AST. So we don't need a return value. We're doing manipulation. Who cares about functional programming? And then we return our manipulated markdown AST. I actually don't think that we need to return anything because it's manipulated. Yeah. So that's how the high level thing works. And like I said, I can do code sandbox and maybe code pen or whatever thing I want to be able to embed. I can make that work in here with custom embed things. So let's take a look at the YouTube one first really quick because I think it's simpler. So the should transform is pretty straightforward. We have this get URL function, which is basically get the YouTube URL. So here, if I look up here, it's going to look for that YouTube URL. This is also a text node, so it's going to look in there. But basically, we just need to find something that is just a YouTube URL all by itself. That counts as a YouTube URL as well. And then there's also short URLs for YouTube. And so we're going to say, hey, if it contains U2, or if it doesn't contain U2, then it's definitely not a YouTube URL, not even a short URL, so we'll just exit early. If it doesn't start with HTTP, then it's not a valid URL, but I want to be able to do something like this. I don't want to have to put the HTTP there if I don't want to. And so if it doesn't start with HTTP, then we'll start it out like that. And then we'll create a new URL out of that string. And if that fails, then it wasn't a URL at all. It may have been stuff. So it could have been because that would be one text node and that would be the whole value. This would be an invalid URL. So we'll just boot it out and they have to fix the URL. So that's actually a URL, or maybe they didn't want it to be transformed. So yeah, then we'll say if the URL host ends with youtube.com or YouTube, so the short URL version, or if it doesn't end in either of those, then it's not a URL, return null. Otherwise, we'll return the URL. So if it is null, then we know it's not a valid YouTube URL and it should not transform. If it is a valid YouTube URL, then we will transform. So then the actual transformation happens here, get YouTube HTML, and then we'll get the YouTube iframe source, we'll get that URL, we'll get the ID of the video from the v search param, unless the URL host is U2, in which case it's going to be the first part of the path name. The path name minus the beginning slash, because the short URL, that's how those work. And then we'll get the embed URL, which is basically the YouTube no cookie, because who wants cookies? Actually, I want cookies, but not these kind of cookies. And then I'm kind of hungry now. So we'll have embed and then the ID that we got from either the v or the path name, depending on what kind of URL it is. And then I add this rel0 because YouTube removed the ability for your embeds to disallow showing videos at the end. I don't want to show any other videos. I don't want to distract from the rest of the blog post or whatever. So they disallowed that, but they added a feature that allows you to say what kinds of videos to show. So it'll either show something that's specific to the user, or you can say, only show related videos to the channel that this embed is coming from. So that's kind of nice. I can at least scope it down. Most of the time I'm showing my own videos, and so I can at least scope it down to my own videos rather than some cat meme or something that is suggested by YouTube. So that's the beginnings of the embed URL, but then I want to take all the search params from the original URL, like if they had and list equals 1, 2, 3, whatever, for a playlist or whatever. So I'm going to take all of those and tack them onto this embed URL, except there are a couple differences. So if the name of that is V, then that's the ID, and we'll skip that. We've already dealt with that by putting the ID right here. If the name is T, then that represents time. So here you can have T equals 1 minute, 20 seconds, and that's where the video will start. And that's pretty cool. Unfortunately, the embed has a totally different scheme. And that is, the query param is called start, and the time cannot be 1 minute, 20 seconds. This would actually have to be 80, and that would be start. So it has to be a number value, and that number value is seconds. And so I have to take, and T equals 80. That also works for a regular YouTube URL. So I could just manually convert everything to just use the T param and then rename it to start. But I thought, I kind of want to make it easier. Computers are smart. So I just take that time value, and if it's a number, then we'll just return that time value. That's fine. Otherwise, it's going to be something that has, number H for hours, number M for minutes, number S for seconds, and then I convert that to just the string number thing. It's kind of interesting. So once I got that and all the other search params appended to this embed URL, then I can toString that URL and return it. And that gets me my YouTube iframe source. And with that iframe source, I make an iframe HTML. So I have my width, and my height, which I'll probably adjust to make it responsive and stuff. But then I have my source and then a bunch of other things. Picture in picture is kind of cool. And that gets me my YouTube HTML. So when I go into here, I have it actually embedded properly. So if I inspect that, right here, so that's the iframe that we generated. No cookie embed / blah, blah, blah. Cool stuff, right? So there's that. Let's look at the Twitter version. So Twitter, it's actually very similar. I need to move this down. Really doesn't matter, but let's exit early if it doesn't even contain the text Twitter, right? So yeah, we pretty much do the same thing. It's a Twitter URL if it ends with twitter.com on the host, and if the path name includes /status, because I don't want to try to do a Twitter embed if I'm linking to somebody's profile or whatever, right? So yeah, then we have this get Twitter HTML. I refactored this between async await and promises a couple times, and I kind of like the just raw promises. I don't know. But yeah, so then we do node fetch, publish twitter.com, embed URL is that string. And so that would be blah, blah, this thing right here. So that's what I'm passing to that. Then we're going to JSON-ify it, which is silly, but I guess that's what we have to do. And then we'll take that response, we'll get the HTML value off of it. I'm going to put it into an array so I can do all these transformations without having to make a bunch of new variables in my function. And then I join it later. So yeah, we'll map s replace the script. So we'll get rid of that script thing that they're including. If they ever change this format, then I'll have to fix things, which would be kind of annoying. And then at that time, I'll probably make it more robust. And then they also do this ref source, Twitter source, something weird, and I just don't want that. On any of their Twitter URLs, that's silly. So we'll get rid of that. And then they also provide valid HTML, but it's not valid JSX. And because we're using Gatsby, Gatsby and MDX, it needs to be valid JSX. So yeah, so we're gonna replace BR with BR/. And I'll probably there'll probably be a couple other situations where I need to change or add more transformations like this. But yeah, then we join it, which is basically, it's one element, so it doesn't do anything, it just turns it into a string. And then we trim it to get rid of any white space, whatever, and we return that. So yeah, that's getting the Twitter HTML. And the end result here is really beautiful embeds. And all I had to do as a user of my platform and these plugins is paste the URL there. Now, the question people are going to ask me is, will I open source this? Yeah, probably, eventually. I don't know. Makes it a little easier to use if it's open source. So yeah, maybe I'll have a remark embedder, and then there'll be different like plugins you can add to that. I don't know. We'll figure something out probably. But yeah, that's the way that works. It's kind of fun, interesting. And yeah, that's Remark plugins. I think that's it. So I am back from the Christmas break. It was a lot of fun. I hope you had a great Christmas break too. And I also am starting this thing. KCD IM 3 mins. Let me paste that here. So this is yeah, here are my downloads in the last 3 weeks because I'm signed in. But so far I've just like kind of been back and forth a little bit about like being active on publishing this 3-minute podcast. But I'm going to start doing it every day, answering a question from my AMA. So if you want to ask a question, you can go to kcd.im/AMA. I'll paste that too. And then here you can ask questions, and I'll pick a question that makes sense in a 3-minute podcast form, and I'll answer that question, and we'll do this every weekday, and it'll be fun. So feel free to ask away. And now I'm going to check out your questions that you have right now in the chat. So is it just me, or does it feel like a dark theme with the same text would make the code more readable? Maybe it's because I'm watching from mobile at the moment. Yeah, so I literally normally use a dark theme. But last time I did this, somebody complained about the dark theme being hard to read. So, oh, actually, yeah, this is my normal settings. So give me a thumbs up if you like the dark theme and if you want me to use the dark theme in the future. Thumbs down if you like the light theme, and don't do anything if you don't care. Either way. But yeah, I actually prefer the dark theme, but somebody said that it was hard to read, and so I tried a light theme. All right, yeah, that's it for me. I hope you have a nice day, and I will see you later. Hey, thank you, Ankit. That was nice. People are being nice. Thank you. All right, yeah, so I'm going to jump out, and I will see you all in the future at another time. Bye.